Okay, I am getting out of the truck at the Sunset Cemetery just outside of Mountain Home, Texas. Paul Johnson is here, and he is going to interview a person that he called an old timer that has lived here his whole life, and he said his granddaddy told him a story that he will never forget about the murder of the Dowdy, D-O-W-D-Y children. 4 of them were murdered by Indians. He said the story was just something he just can't forget, even though he was just a young man when he heard it. But I'm going to give you a little bit of a heads up on what happened before we include what Paul finds out today, if anything, but I think he will. So I'm walking over here to the grave of the Dowdy children. They're buried right here in these 2 graves. There's two bodies in each grave. There was 4 of them. They're right here. There was 4 of them that were murdered by Indians. The thing I remember, and I imagine you will too, is that their bodies were filled with arrows. And when it came time to bury the children, the mother would not let anyone remove the arrows from their bodies, as she was afraid that it might hurt them. That's just something that just sticks in your mind. So anyway, I just want to give you a little, just tell you about which way we're going here, and Paul hopefully will find something in a few minutes that is going to be worth telling.
The heart-wrenching story from the dreadful massacre of October 5, 1878 in Kerr County, Texas, was how the graves of the Dowdy children were mounded because the mother did not want the arrows pulled out of her children for fear it would hurt them. Thus, the graves had to allow for room for the protruding arrows to remain embedded just as the bodies were found. The old-timer I met in the cemetery tells the story.
October 5th, 1878 was a tragic day. It was a Saturday. The Dowdy family was newly arrived in Kerr County, Texas. They included a mother, a father, and 8 children. They had just settled on their property in what is now called Mountain Home. Now, Mr. Dowdy was over at a neighbor's. Oldest daughter Mary was in the house with their mother, Susan, and the youngest child, George, age 7. The oldest brother, Dick, who was 22, was away but planned to return to relieve the middle children who were out tending the animals. 4 of the younger Dowdy children, they were James, age 10, Susan, called Rilla, age 14, Martha, called Fanny, age 16, and Alice, age 18. They were watching sheep about a half-mile from their house. When Dick arrived where the animals were held, he could not find the children. After searching, he found Alice first. She had been reading a book and was face down with several arrows in her back. She had also been mutilated, her clothing torn, and there were signs of a struggle. Dick ran to the house, probably not knowing what he would find there and unaware of the scope of the loss. After informing his mother, he ran for help at a neighbor's home, and they formed a search party. They found Susan. She too had been mutilated, her head crushed by a tomahawk, her throat cut and tongue split. A couple 100 yards away, little James was discovered on a hill, similarly killed. His location showed he might have been heading toward home. And Fanny, who had been reading a book, was found a half-mile away with 1 arrow in her back. She was the farthest from the home of all the children. The Texas Rangers were notified. Captain James B. Gillette, he wrote that the Rangers couldn't find evidence of where the attackers had come from, since rains had washed much of the tracks away. He added that the murderers were probably from the Kickapoos and Lipans from Santa Rosa Mountains in Mexico. They frequently raided southwestern Texas, stole hundreds of horses, and killed many people. The Rangers built a rock monument about 8 or 10 feet high to mark the spot where the victims fell. It was the last known Indian raid in Kerr County. Mary, the oldest sister who was not killed, never married and lived her life as a recluse. That's about all I remember.
Amidst the tranquil serenity of the cemetery, one cannot help but reflect on the passage of time and the enduring legacy of these pioneers, forever interwoven into the fabric of the West's rich and storied heritage.